This is almost becoming laughable. If it wasn't so serious, I'd just be rolling on the floor laughing right now. I wouldn't even be able to do a video. You would just see a video of me laughing hysterically. There's an old saying that you cannot squeeze blood out of a turnip. I may have to have a word with the people who came up with that term, because I think these bankers, these international bankers, unelected officials, are actually squeezing a little bit of blood out of a turnip. I don't know how long they can continue this. So there's no deal with Greece. There is a deal with Greece. There's not a deal with Greece. Last minute deal with Greece. We haven't finalized it yet. We did finalize it. Sources familiar with the matter said such and such. Who the hell knows what's going on? The bottom line is, as we all know, you cannot fix a debt problem, people or countries or whatever, in debt, by giving them more debt and then telling them, we need you to cut all of these jobs, rape and pillage the pension funds, change the public sector pay, change the private sector pay, and of course, as I said, fire a crap load of people as part of the condition for us to give you these funds, says an elected body that has money that they got created out of nothing to begin with, and then give it to these people with strict demands. And as Pastor Dow has said many times, according to the Bible anyways, the lender is master over the borrower, right? So the borrower is servant to the lender. So the people of Greece are basically sitting there saying, why is an unelected body who's giving us money that we don't want in the first place telling us, we're giving you this money, take the money and meet our demands? And all of the demands that they've said, you got to do this, cut this, change the pay in that, do this, do that, do that, Greece has not been able to do. They are not in compliance with the things thus far. So what makes you think, if they're given a new bailout fund with new austerity measures, new budget cuts, new firing of people, that all of a sudden this is going to change? Now, I just read, I should have printed it out yesterday, that there was some number, I don't remember what the number was, it had nothing to do with GDP growth, but it was some kind of growth forecast by Greece. And the international bankers, the IMF, the EU, these bastards, told them, if you do this, this, and this, and this, we forecast such and such growth in that sector, and you guys should be on par with what we need. You know, our demands will be met. Only to find out that their forecasted 8 or 9, I think it was 9%, 8.9%, something like that, so we'll call that 9%, of whatever the growth factor was that they were forecasting. Not only was it not met, but it was minus 7%. So, now I'm not talking 9% to 7%, I'm talking 9 down to 0 and then minus 7. We're talking like 15, 16% giant gaping hole of where they thought they should have been if they followed these strict austerity measures and cuts. And let me ask you another question. If you cut massive amounts of more private and public sector jobs, because that's what ultimately happened, the private sector is going to get cut anyways, automatically when the public sector gets cut. So if you do all these cuts and all these people are now staying there jobless, and maybe they have some kind of little unemployment plan over there that lasts, you know, a year or so, whatever, who knows. What are you going to do with all these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever it equals, of unemployed people? What's going to happen to them? They do have to eat, they do have to drink, they do have to live somewhere, right? They are still human beings and part of a society. You don't think for 1 second Greece is going to turn into a giant country of just homeless people walking the streets. That will not happen. A human being will not let that happen, because all animals, including humans, have an instinct inside that will kick in that basically says, I'm human, goddammit. I deserve better than this, and I will refuse to accept what has been happening to me. And then a little thing clicks on, and then all around them, the same people in the same situation, that same thought clicks on them, and thus you have a revolution that topples their government instantaneously. I can't believe it hasn't already happened yet, to be honest with you. The level of sheepness across the world, and don't look at them, all those stupid Europeans, no. America's full of even worse sheep, by the way. So we have sheep in America. We have sheep over in the Eurozone, Greece, everywhere. Everywhere there's sheep. And we've been dumbed down. We haven't seen violence in such a long time. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it means to revolt. We don't know any of these things. We're just peaceful citizens. And hey, you're bad if you do violence. You need to stand there and protest peacefully. And of course, you can't even do that anymore, because then the cops rough you up and throw you in jail anyways because they told you to leave, even though you have a right to be there. But even if they did let you stay and you were peacefully protesting, how much stuff have you ever read in any history book, ever, that showed someone standing around with a sign, you know, change the country? We were able to leave Britain in the king's grasp over in the Eurozone and come over and create this thing called America peacefully. Did our founding fathers, George Washington, right, Thomas Jefferson, all these guys we've all heard so much about, they would be called, as of right now, if they did what they did right now in America and said, we're leaving this whole union thing, we're starting our own thing right now, the way that they did it, which was by violence and gunfire, it's the only way they could. If they were to even talk about these things right now, they would be rounded up and thrown into some kind of military Guantanamo Bay camp and labeled as terrorists, and the news would parade these guys around as homegrown terrorists. They're bad. Yet every one of you has to be, no choice of yours, has to be, you must be thankful, whether you want to be or not, you have to be, for what those founding fathers did by revolting against the system that was unfair to them. And yeah, they revolted violently and killed people in order to accomplish this, quote, free nation of ours that we live in. So how do you plan on keeping this free nation free when you can see things deteriorating? And the same question, I could put that on the people of Greece, which is what this story is about. You think they're just going to stand there and bang some more pots and sing their little Greek songs and all that? That's actually where I'm from. That's my not my nationality, but I am Greek. My parents, their parents, etc., came from Greece. So I am a Greek. My last name is, of course, Greek. And I'm sitting here singing this. And the interesting thing is, because I'm an American, it's not like I look over in Greece and say, oh, it's my people. My people are hurting and suffering. Why? Because I'm an American. I only care about America, right? When in all honesty, I look at everybody as a whole. We're all human beings. We all have the same problem. We all have these things called governments, right? And I was just reading from Zero Hedge that the former deputy prime minister of Greece has now been charged with tax evasion on a piece of property he had that he was trying to hide, busted red-handed, tax evasion, and he was also found guilty in some kind of court system over there. I don't know what the specific part of it was, but he was found guilty of taking a bribe from a German submarine company to give the Greek people 4, military-based submarines for like $1 billion of money. And ultimately, the Germans had spent somewhere around $100 million in bribes to get this thing done. And interestingly enough, the amount that Greece was like back on, couldn't afford to make payments to the submarine company anymore. They said that happened in 2000. Coincidentally enough, that exact amount of money is now kind of like when they cook the books, missing. Oh, we see a little, we didn't count that, $1 billion over there. We didn't see that before. Thanks for the bailout funds from the IMF and the EU. But we just found something over here in book number 7. And book number 7 has like a few $1 billion that we just found that we owe somehow. So add that to our debt list. That's what happens everywhere, by the way. So let me just read this story from Reuters. Greek leaders clinched a long-stalled deal on reforms and austerity measures needed to secure a bailout and avoid a messy default, government sources said hours before the country's financial backers were to meet in Brussels on Thursday. Whew. Boy, they needed to do that to secure a bailout. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. I thought they already got a bailout from the IMF. And wait a minute. I thought they got a bailout before that from the EU also. And then after all those two, Germany had to step in and give them the okay, the final okay, to get another bailout. So what bailout are we on for Greece? And if you've had, let's just say there's 4 bailouts total right now for Greece. Why is there 4 when the first one was supposed to fix the problem if they followed all these measures, which they did, and the measures didn't seem to work? So they got another bailout with more stricter measures, cut more people's pay, cut more people's employment, and then we forecast your growth to be proper. Only to find out that it's not proper. Epic fail. We need to give you more money, and you're not going to get any more of these payments unless you do this, this, and this. Okay, we'll do it. And now here we are again. They made a deal on austerity measures needed to secure another bailout. This, like I said, I didn't think it was possible to squeeze blood out of a turnip. And these politicians and their central banker handlers are able to do it. They are able to do the impossible. How could Greece get another bailout when they've been failing to meet all other requirements thus far? This is just crazy. Athens' partners in the European Union and the IMF, of course the IMF, fund have been exacerbated by a lack of agreement on the sacrifices they demanded. Right? The bankers who offer nothing to the world, create nothing for the world, do nothing for the world, no labor, no product, just paper, digital dollars created out of nothing to loan to other countries and then demand those other countries follow their strict rules. The borrower is servant to the lender. The entire country of Greece is now servant to the lenders. IMF/EU or ECB. Finance minister, this prestigious man, he had to have gone to Harvard or Yale. This guy's got to be, he's got to be just a specimen of a human being. He wouldn't be wronging the Greek people, no way. So, let me read this anyways. Finance minister Evangelos Venizelos set off for Brussels without a complete deal after all-night talks with leaders of the three Greek coalition parties and chief EU and IMF inspectors left one sensitive issue: pension cuts unresolved. How are we going to steal what we've promised the people, in writing of course, is theirs and it's a guaranteed contract? Now we can default on that and just rip up the contract and say your contract's null and void, you sheeple bastards, you get nothing, your pension's gone. But we can't default on, as the country as a whole, right? Hey, Greek leaders clinched a long-stalled deal on reforms and austerity measures needed to secure a bailout and avoid a, quote, messy default. We can't have that. Well, we the bankers can't have that because we've got bonds issued and we need our money, interest payments on those bonds from the people of Greece. We are squeezing the blood out of that turnip. And the only way we can get that is if you cut these people's salaries and you destroy their pensions. Oh, that'll never happen in America. That's Greece. That's the EU. That's a third world country. Oh, wait. No, it's not a third world country. Ooh. But that'll never happen in America. It has already happened in America. Rhode Island, New Jersey, was it Alabama or Illinois? Alabama, I believe, right? They're now defaulted on that. So your pensions are very negotiable, even though it's a signed deal, it's a contract. The government can't back. Yeah, that's right. You can back out. It's called bankrupt. You file for bankruptcy and it goes away. How's that pension working out for you? Which I love, because the people who think that they've had these pensions all the time, just like the Roman Empire, they had a pension system too, by the way, ended up finding out that they didn't have jack crap, and they were the ones who revolted the most. Which is great, because I'm not on a pension. I don't care about pensions. I save my own money via silver investments, and I can sit back and do little videos like this and just kind of look around, laugh, smile at everyone else who thinks their pension's secure, my retirement's secure, my paper 401k, that's secure, there's insurance on things like that. It can't go to zero. Oh, it can go to zero. There's only one thing in the world that's never gone to zero, and that's gold and silver. So they left one sensitive issue unresolved so far, and that's the pension cuts. But following further negotiation on Thursday, two government sources said an overall agreement had been reached. Quote, a few minutes ago, I got a call from the Prime Minister of Greece saying that an agreement had been reached and has been endorsed by the major parties. European Central Bank President Mario Draghi told a news conference in Frankfurt in the first official confirmation. Oh, wait a minute. Mario, that's right. IMF, or Bilderberger. IMF, Bilderberg, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, the whole 9 yards. That's who that guy. Oh, Mario Draghi. That's right. The name slipped me for a second. I thought it was just some random expert. No, he's one of the boys, one of the club. The euro and European stocks strengthened on news of the breakthrough, which raised prospects of averting a chaotic, hard default by the Eurozone's most indebted country within weeks that could send tremors around the global economy. Ooh, we don't want that. Just keep pumping more debt into that old turd. You know the old saying, you can't polish a turd? Greece right now is that turd, and they're desperately polishing it, and then the news is spinning out that, yeah, we actually successfully polished a turd. Look at it, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But it looks like a turd, it smells like a turd. It's a turd, right? You know, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It must be a duck. Yeah. So you can polish a turd all you want. As the old saying goes, you can't polish a turd because a turd is a turd. And right now, that turd is Greece. It cannot be polished. It cannot be fixed. I don't care what the mainstream media says. I don't care if they said the greatest agreement of all time has just been procured and good times are right around the corner. Right. The risk premium investors charge for holding Italian and Spanish bonds rather than safe haven German bonds fell back. Eurozone officials say the package must be agreed with Greece and approved by the EU, IMF, and European Central Bank by February 15, so the legal paperwork can be completed in time to avoid a chaotic default that may threaten the global economic recovery. Well, first of all, it can't possibly threaten the global economic recovery because there is no global economic recovery, period. Therefore, there's nothing there to threaten. And as a matter of fact, it is part of the non-existent global economic recovery. It is the opposite of that is taking place, and Greece is just a part of it. Gotta love how they write these stories. These guys just want to change your view of global economic recovery. That way, if Greece does in fact default, because notice how it says here, Eurozone officials say the full package must be agreed with Greece and approved by the EU, the IMF, and the European Central Bank by February 15. But the headline says Greek leaders clinched a long-stalled deal on reforms and austerity measures. This is a done deal, it's in the bag. If that's the case, why is it in the same article saying that they say the full package must be agreed to? What full package? Am I missing something out of this article that I wasn't told about? There's a little key ingredient that may not make the whole deal go through? Why are they using that word, the full package must be agreed with Greece and approved by the EU, the IMF, and the European Central Bank by February 15th, which is just a few days from now? I wonder if by chance this is a bunch of horse crap. There is no deal. They're not going to be able to come to an agreement with the pension cuts or some part of this deal, and the whole thing falls through. Because as you'll recall, I've heard at least 3 times now, China to help bail out Europe. China to help buy bonds and this and that from Europe. China to import. The same damn story. And all 3 times that I've heard it thus far, and it's only been a matter of months that this has happened, and 3 times. Not one single time was that news truthful at all. But the markets liked it. Markets went up. China to bail out Europe. My boss even called me. Yeah, it looks like China's fixing to help bail out the European zone. I said, what? He goes, yeah, I was just reading on the news. I heard on the news today. When he says he heard on the news today, he means the news. CNN, Fox, the propaganda press. So I explained to him, it's propaganda. This is the second, at the time, it was the second time that they had said that. First time was a lie. Second time's a lie. And since then, there's a third time that's come out, which is also another lie. There is no China helping, buying, blah, 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 blah. Nothing. China is reducing its dollar holdings by the droves, by the way. I last heard that their $2 trillion in debt has now become $1 trillion of our debt that they're holding. What is that telling you? And of course, they're massively buying gold, which would be the smartest thing in the world to do if you had $1 trillion or so to play with. Quote, the financial survival of the country in the coming years depends on this new program. It is a time of responsibility for everyone, Mr. Venizelos, the Prime Minister, said. It is a time of responsibility for everyone. But you politicians, as I mentioned, corruption, tax evasion, bribery, putting the country in debt, cooking the books, hiding it over here so that the country doesn't quite catch on yet, right? And you think this is just, you thought only that kind of stuff only happened in the U.S.? No, because bankers are bankers. The political class are the political class. You can take a banker who can't even speak English in any of those Eurozone countries, just pure Greek, let's say. He can't even speak a lick of English. Pure Greek background. Politician, take him right over here in America, and assuming he learned English rapidly, would be no different. He would be doing the same things, taking the same bribes and bailouts, and it'd be no different. Because the politicians are a class of people. The banksters are a class of people. Just like drug users, drug abusers are a class of people. You can hear a story of a meth house in Florida and how they were doing their meth and cooking it and doing this and that. You could go to Tennessee, you could go to Kentucky, you can go anywhere and hear the same damn story. Because a drug user is a drug user is a drug user. A drug producer is a drug producer is a drug producer. They all do the same things. It's so easy to understand. So it's not out of the ballpark to say that a politician out of another country wouldn't come over to this country or any other country and not do the same things that they're already used to doing. It is a known part of being in the political scene. Take bribes, pass laws that have nothing to do with anything other than getting you money in your pocket. Doesn't matter what it says. It could even say in the law that by signing this law, you are stepping down as a senator or congressman. These idiots would sign it in a heartbeat to get their money, their campaign contributions, not even read the damn thing and see that little subsection that says they just fired themselves. Guarantee it. And this guy has the nerve to say it is a time of responsibility for everyone. I don't think the people of Greece put themselves in debt, I'm pretty sure. I don't think the people in Greece cooked the financial books simply because they elected people who did that for them. Not knowingly, of course. Didn't know that these elected officials would be getting bribes and putting the country further and further and further and further into debt, getting things they don't need, getting into debt which they don't need, and then they just leave. Oh, I'm leaving Greece. I used to be the prime minister. I used to be the defense minister. I used to be this guy. Yeah, I left. I retired or got fired, whatever, and I'm out. But you left a stinking, rotting carcass behind for the people, the citizens, to deal with. And now that they're dealing with that stinking, rotting carcasses that you politicians created, and you bankers created, a politician, of course, has the nerve, the prime minister nonetheless, to say it is a time of responsibility for everyone. All people in Greece, we all must pitch in, we all must endure the austerity, we all must take pay cuts, we all must lose our pensions, because this unelected body over here, known as the IMF, EU, whatever, has said you must do these things to get money. And anyone who would stand up and say, excuse me, sir, why don't we just create our own money again and start fresh, zero, all debts wiped out, and we start over? Because I can't answer that right now. I'm busy. Don't put me on the spot. The cameras are on. How dare you talk to me that way? I'm an official. I've got the education. I've been educated in Harvard and Yale. And that's exactly why they won't ever tell you why it would be a good idea to wipe all the debt out and start over with a new currency. Because Princeton, Harvard, Yale, economics, at the top level, most prestigious place you can get educated on these matters, don't teach you that that's a good thing to do. They teach you to do what everybody's doing. We can't default, don't let them default, continue printing bonds, set the rules in order to secure these loans for them. I don't care what it does to the people, this is how our economy works. All you're seeing right now is this system, this economic system, dying. It's been stabbed in the heart. These bankers don't even realize it's been stabbed in the heart. But it has been. It's on its way out. It's dying. But as it dies, it flings around a little bit and, does stuff like that. This little thing with Greece I read you is one of those things. Just flinging, slashing its tail a couple of times. Quote, the painful measures that create misery for the youth, the unemployed, and the pensioners do not leave us much room, end quote, Secretary General of the ADEDY Union told Reuters. Quote, we won't accept them. There will be a social uprising. And keep in mind, Mr. whatever your name is, standing around with the picket sign that says stop, right? If someone's raping you as a woman, you're being raped, and you got a gun on your hip, a knife on the other side, and a taser right in the middle, right between your bra or something, right? No, those are violent crimes. I can't do that. This man's raping me violently, but that's okay. Where's my... Sir, hold on for 1 second. Let me get my picket sign. Please stop raping me. Sir, I'm protesting. Did you not see my sign? Put it in your face as he's raping me. Stop raping me. I don't like it. It's unconstitutional. It's against the law. Sir, you're breaking the law. You're breaking the law. Read my sign. My sign says stop. Gun on the hip. Knife on the other hip. Big old taser right here in the center. Nope. I'm a homegrown terrorist if I do that. Homegrown terrorist. Because the person raping me happened to be a banker. And he's wearing a suit and tie. Rapists don't walk around wearing suit and tie, so this guy must be just an individual who is allowed to have whatever he wants. So never mind. Go ahead. Continue, sir. Let me take my sign down. Let me disarm myself. Matter of fact, I'll give you my gun, and then you can hold it to my head while you rape me. That's what this is saying here. Venizelos should now be able to present to fellow Eurozone finance ministers, mob members, a fully fledged new bailout plan. Forget the old 3 of them or 4 of them. There's a new one now. Including a commitment for 3.3 billion euros in budget cuts this year when they meet at 1700 GM time. Before then, all eyes will be on what the ECB is willing to do to help Greece at its monthly policy meeting. After the overnight talks, a senior government official said the party chiefs, now they're chiefs, agreed on how to make about 90% of the promised savings, leaving a relatively small hole in the calculations. Asked how the differences over pension cuts had been resolved, another government official told Reuters, quote, there will be cuts in other areas of public spending, and we will see how we will minimize reductions in pensions. International lenders are demanding that the party leaders commit themselves in writing to implement the program of pay and pension cuts, structural and administrative reforms. The leaders have been loath to accept the lenders' tough conditions, which are certain to be unpopular with voters. They face parliamentary elections possibly as early as April. Quote, in these difficult hours, we have to look after the ordinary people, the pensioners, conservative New Democracy leader Antonis Samaras said after the political leaders' meeting. Quote, I haven't got the right to not negotiate hard, and I don't care what other people think about that. We have to make sure that people will suffer less. Newspaper editorials criticized the harshness of the austerity measures demanded by Greece's lenders, but said there was no other option but to just give in and agree. So the media, the newspapers, criticize, this is harsh, you can't expect people to do that, but I guess it's necessary, it's the only option. It's not the only option. Bankruptcy. 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 It is not the only option. You can file for bankruptcy, default, whatever you wish to call it. It is an option. It was created for all of us to use when we need it most, including countries and financial institutions and businesses and individuals, everybody. But the newspaper is telling the people there was no other option but to give in and agree. You know what, sir? You're raping me. I've held my sign up. I've put it in your face. I know you read it. But I have no other options. Bozo, you have a gun on your hip, you have a knife on the other side, and you have a taser in the middle. But the newspaper told me I have no other options. Oh, well then I guess you have no other options. If you're a sheep and you're going to buy that, then go ahead. I wish you the best with your austerity measures while you're sleeping in the streets at night. See if that's all I want to read. Yeah, that's all for now. There's a little bit more, but I don't need to go there. This is going to be the story of Greece, Portugal, Spain, France, Ireland. This is going to be the story for all of them. Does that mean this is all going to take place this year? No. There's no way that I'm going to sit here and say that I know for sure the entire Eurozone will collapse this year. It's a done deal. No idea. I do know the Eurozone will collapse sometime in the near future. I also know what that does to gold and silver prices. And at the same time, money will flood into the U.S. for a little while, and then we'll see our own little problems here, which haven't gone away. But wait, we had 8.3% unemployment. Best number in forever. Wait till the revisions come out. Revised unemployment number. We epically failed, and we're back to 9, basically. And not to mention, they don't even count the things they're supposed to count, and they create the whole birth, death model sequence thing that this means is absolutely meaningless. Kind of like how the Federal Reserve, we see, you know, this 2%, 3%, whatever inflation. What do you base that on? I'm sure it's food and at least gasoline, you know, oil. No, actually, we base it on other things, excluding purposely food and oil, gasoline. But aren't those the two things where you would see inflation? Because, number one, oil affects everything. And, of course, it does affect food, too. But at least with food, you know, some of it could be grown without oil, technically speaking. So, it's two of the most important ingredients on the face of the earth, oil and food. But yeah, but we don't think those are important enough to come up with our yearly or whatever rates for inflation. Interesting. So, all I can tell you is that because of all this crap in Europe, when this whole thing goes down, it is going to be extremely deflationary to start with. And then it becomes very inflationary and probably hyperinflationary after that. My key thing to do, basically, is to find out, as it's taking place, the deflationary cycle is absolutely here. Oh my God. Where's gold and silver at? Are they way up? Yes. Okay, good. And am I starting to see the inflation kicking in? And is that inflation kicking in just like food and necessities, or is it also going to kick in housing prices? I don't think it will kick in the housing prices, because as all this happens, people's credit's being destroyed. There's no way banks are going to be sitting here lending money, home loans for people when half the population can't get a loan anymore. Therefore, the market is speaking and says, well, then we have to lower prices. We're going to lower prices enough to where people could potentially buy a house and land for cash. And they actually have the cash and don't have to go get a loan, which means devastating prices for housing. I just looked at a property today online very close to Lafayette, Tennessee. It was, I want to say 9 acres, or was it 5? Somewhere between 5 and 9 acres. I can't remember, actually. It had a little house on there, may have been a trailer, you know, manufactured home or something, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, for $19,000. I could sell some silver now and pull that off. But I know it's not the right thing to do yet, because I know the price of silver is going much, 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 much higher. And I could probably get a better deal than that when the time is right. So it's all about finding the right timing with this. So anyways, that's all I'm going to leave you with. Have a nice day.